Warning, the following communications are not authorized. Please disable your signals and report to your local re-education center immediately. Failure to comply will result in immediate reprimand and capital punishment.
Bursting your eardrums from coast to coast, from country to country. It's Unauthorized Opinion with today's special guest, Keean Bexte. How are you, Keean? How are you, Eric?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am also well. How are
I
you,
have
Eric?
I have a question, Andrew. Is it Andrew says? Is it one word or is it two? Like, is says
is.
a last name?
You don't know my real last name, Keean? Looks like we
It's like
lost Eric.
it's like I thought it was Chapados or something like that. But
It
like
is.
the stage name, is it Andrew says or Andrew says?
It's two separate.
Okay.
Andrew, like Arrivederci. I'm trying to come up with an Italian name right away. It's not coming to mind. The first thing I want to mention is Keean Bexte's website called thecountersignal.com. You can sign up for his email list, and you can also go to his page on Spotify, which is where I listen to it, to listen to his podcast. As you can see, he's got stories, he's got news clips, and links to everything. Listen to his podcast from last week. It was with the Blair White. How did that go, Keean? Did you guys have a good time? I managed to listen to about the first 10 to 15 minutes. You want to tell me how the rest of it went?
The last 10 to 15 minutes was about as epic as the first 10 to 15 minutes. So if you ever want to go check it out again, you can do that. We talked about Tom McDonald's new music video that Blair White was in. That's it was this anti-woke song called Snowflakes, and it talks about a whole bunch of stuff, from the over medication of children to the ridiculousness and stupidity of pronoun culture and just wokeism in general. So it was good to have Blair on the show. We talked about all that kind of stuff. We also talked about Jonathan Yaniv, that predator from Langley, and just sort of his history with Blair White. It was a great show, and yeah, you can find that on my website or on Spotify at The Counter Signal.
Yeah, I'm a bad friend for not listening to the whole thing. The crazy thing about Tom McDonald is #1 song in the entire United States. I'm not talking about hip hop. Bryson Gray, my guy's #7 on the hip hop list, but for all of songs on Apple list, he's #1, and zero coverage from, like, I'm sure he's not being played on MTV. Much music should be playing him for Canadian content, but they don't at all. So what we're going to talk about today is some crazy stuff from Rebel News. David Menzies, the Menzoid, was ticketed for literally shaking hands with people and even laughing. So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to read from you some of his charges, which are hilarious, and then we're also going to talk about Tucker Carlson had a segment about, I think it was Revolver, this website, talking about how a bunch of the people from the Capitol riot were, 6 of them at least, were in the FBI. So that's crazy too. And I also want to mention cryptolab.ca, Keean, because we had Tristan on before, and I told him I would talk about it. He's the guy that I had on that turned $2,500 into $100,000. So I was like, come on my show and teach me about crypto. And I learned an absurd amount. He even gave me a coupon code, which is 20 off in all caps, to get $20 off for your lifetime subscription. I want him to come into the office and talk to people, because like half the time I was just like, I have no idea what's going on here. I feel like, you feel like you know things, like you're a semi-smart individual, but you don't when you talk about crypto. I don't know, you're really into crypto. You've been in it much longer than me, haven't you?
Yeah, I actually just bought Dogecoin. I had
wow.
I had it back when it was at 3 cents, and just like when Elon Musk started talking about it, that's when I sort of hitched my wagon to it, and it went up a bit, and then I sold, and then it went up a lot more, and now I decided to come back in when it was at the top again. I'm sure it's going to collapse now, but you know what I would love? I would love David Menzies to do like a tutorial for boomers on how to buy Bitcoin. I think that would market really well.
I would love that too. So it's cryptolad.ca if you want to see my guy, Tristan. He's super smart, and he's not like, when he was coming on, I was like, Tristan, you can leave if you don't want to talk about the politics. I'm bringing you on to talk about crypto. And he's like, we'll see. He's like, I'll decide. And then it turns out he's like, I never wear a mask. I think this is stupid. And I was like, oh shit, this guy, he's everything you want and more. So that promo code was 20 off for cryptolab.ca. He's a really good guy. But let's get to David Menzies and some of the. Here's the picture. I'm having trouble using so many browsers at once, so bear with me. Here's the picture of him, Keean. So this is him with MPP Randy Hillier, and they're laughing and shaking hands. Now, this is significant, this one photo, because if I am smart enough to bring up the second photo here, this is one of the things he was charged for, Keean. So I want to read what his actual charges were, and this is straight from the police report, and you can find this on rebelnews.com. So what the charges are, and this is access to information stuff. Number one, shaking the hands of a man in blue and white with a baseball hat on a dark hoodie, and they took this screenshot from the YouTube video. Number two, shaking hands with a female in dark brown pants and a turtleneck. Maybe the crime was the turtleneck. I don't know. Shaking hands with a with a man in a black baseball cap in Enough is Enough t-shirt. Shaking the right hand, we're specific now, of a male in a dark t-shirt wearing an Under Armour cap. Standing in a tight circle with Mr. Hillier, who's the guy in the photo, and the owner of the barber shop. Again, they took this part from YouTube as well. They just have screenshots of YouTube videos as their evidence, and then one photo. Brace yourselves. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 acts of shaking hands, or 4 acts of shaking hands, and then a fifth of being in a tight circle. In the sixth charge, one photo shows Mr. Menzies and Mr. Hillier standing next to each other. Both are laughing while Mr. Hillier has his left hand on Menzies' right shoulder. Keean Bexte, we are now at the point in the world where it is a crime to shake people's hands or even touch them. Any thoughts on this? Have we got?
Yeah,
is it even worth?
It's like, it took me a while to realize this, but like this whole pandemic and the government retaliation or response to it, rather, and the retaliation against people has really been inhumane, right? Like touching is like this thing that is part of our culture, right? Like shaking a hand, high fives, whatever it is, putting your hand on someone's shoulder as you laugh with them in this sort of camaraderie, and taking that away from humans is just, it's a disgusting thing. Especially, I mean, maybe early 2020 February, you weren't sure how bad this was going to get, but now when 70% of the population has had their first shot, and we know that they didn't even need it in the first place, they would have been totally fine getting the virus. They would have lived through it. 99% of them would. But vilifying and criminalizing touch in our society is just, it's really an inhumane thing to do.
And to charge this to David Menzies, one of the nicest, harmless men in the world, a national treasure. David Menzies is one of the most insane things ever, especially when you consider he's just going there to report. It's not his fault people want to shake his hands. He's supposed to say no. It's like that one cop in who went to the gym, and I think it's CTV. I shouldn't say Sean O'Shea, the one reporter who's just saying, "Oh, don't stay away from me. You can't be hugging people and shaking hands in a pandemic. This is ridiculous." So here's a good article if you guys want to search it up and watch the video of the guy, Canada's worst cop, Ezra calls it. And he goes through, and we can't see it right now. He goes through, and he actually has a recorded phone call with the cop, who for some reason reveals everything. Keean, I don't know. I don't know if he's allowed to do that.
That's some real operational security right there.
So somebody can just call up and learn about your case. But he compares it, and I won't give any more away, but he compares it to the idea, since they ticketed 12 people, Keean, that's fine. It's not targeting, because he compares it to, if everyone's speeding, they can't pull over everybody. If everybody's shaking hands, we can't sue or can't fine everybody, Keean. Any logic there? Do we want to defend it? Can we see the other side of this logic at all?
It's clear that the police have targeted Rebel News and its reporters for a very long time. Back when I was with them, it was the same thing. They'd pick you out of a crowd. They would know where you were going to be before you got there. They would follow you home, back to your hotel. The police have tabs on every single journalist at Rebel News. And them ticketing David wasn't an accident. There's a reason why they show up at his house every couple weeks to send him a new ticket or order or whatever it is. Whatever. Ontario is just this. What I thank God that I live in Alberta, because it is bad here, but it's not half as bad as Ontario. We get a lot of flack for, the pastors that we've thrown in jail, which is awful. But
Yeah.
Ontario is still worse. Ontario is still far worse.
It's sad to think that we're the worst place in Canada and in the world, I think, right now. Ontario, the UK just extended their lockdown, and then Australia locks down every time they have 3 cases. So it's really crazy. And the next story I want to get to is this huge thing that Tucker Carlson did an article on, which is from the website called Revolver. Unindicted co-conspirators in 1/6 cases raised disturbing questions of federal foreknowledge. Oh, I thought it said foreknowledgement for a second. So basically, and we'll let Tucker Carlson speak a little bit here before we read the rest of the article, is that I believe the number is at least 6, Keean, FBI federal agents were involved in, and I'm trying to be very careful for YouTube reasons, were involved in the incident, directing people to come in, and that would mean that the government knew about it. So let's play a bit of that and see what we can hear.
And speaking of January 6th, why are there still so many things, basic factual matters, that we don't understand about that day? Why is the Biden administration preventing us from knowing? Why is the administration still hiding more than 10,000 hours of surveillance tape from the U.S. Capitol on January 6th? What could possibly be the reason for that? Even as they call for more openness, we need to get to the bottom of it. They could release those tapes today, but they're not. Why? We ought to be asking those questions urgently, because as the Attorney General reminded us today, a lot depends on the answers. And at least one news organization is asking that, Revolver News. It's a news site. It's turned out to be one of the last honest outlets on the internet. A new piece on revolver.news suggests an answer to some of these questions. We know that the government is hiding the identity of many law enforcement officers who were present at the Capitol on January 6th, not just the one who killed Ashley Babbitt. According to the government's own court filings, those law enforcement officers participated in the riot, sometimes in violent ways. We know that because, without fail, the government has thrown the book at most people who are present in the Capitol on January 6th. There was a nationwide dragnet to find them, and many of them are still in solitary confinement tonight. But strangely, some of the key people who participated on January 6th have not been charged. Look at the documents. The government calls those people unindicted co-conspirators. What does that mean? Well, it means that in potentially every single case, they were FBI operatives. Really? In the Capitol on January 6th. For example, one of those unindicted co-conspirators is someone government documents identify only as Person 2. According to those documents, Person 2 stayed in the same hotel room as a man called Thomas Caldwell, an insurrectionist, a man alleged to be a member of the group the Oath Keepers. Person 2 also, quote, stormed the barricades at the Capitol on January 6th alongside Thomas Caldwell. The government's indictments further indicate that Caldwell, who by the way is a 65-year-old man, this dangerous insurrectionist, was led to believe there would be a, quote, quick reaction force also participating on January 6th. That quick reaction force, Caldwell was told, would be led by someone called Person 3, who had a hotel room and an accomplice with him. But wait, here's the interesting thing. Person 2 and Person 3 were organizers of the riot. The government knows who they are, but the government has not charged them. Why is that? You know why. They were almost certainly working for the FBI. So FBI operatives were organizing the attack on the Capitol on January 6th, according to government documents. And those two are not alone. All
right, I'm going to bring us out of this now.
There are, quote, upwards of 20 unindicted co-conspirators in the Oath Keeper indictments, all playing various roles in the conspiracy, who have not been charged for virtually the exact same activities, and in some cases, much, much more severe activities, as those named alongside them in the indictments.
Okay, I think we have Eric back now, going through some severe power outages or something. He's sweating because of the air conditioning. Eric, I guess I was wrong. I thought it was 6 people. It's upwards of 20. Should we be surprised by this, considering the Proud Boys leader turned out to be a Fed?
Oh, you know what? I actually forgot about that. Thank you. I'm fashionably late, right? A little technical difficulty, so I got camera angle 2 here. But I hadn't thought about the Enrique Tarrio thing, which is an interesting point. But outside of that, Unfortunately, I'm actually not surprised, right? I mean, we know that the James Comey-led FBI was the one that set up Trump, whatever during RussiaGate. So, is it beyond them to set up things so that they can attack their political opponents? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, now maybe this is a little bit extreme, but the FBI is basically just the legal version of Antifa. They're in the pocket for Democrats. They only operate, as far as I can see, in one direction, right? And I have to bring this up because one of my New York friends said that the fireworks are back in full force. Now, I don't know if people remember the fireworks terrorism that we were dealing with in Brooklyn of summer last year, but that was happening. There were millions of dollars worth of fireworks being shot off in New York, and the FBI was looking after a garage pull in the garage of a NASCAR driver. So they're not real. So unfortunately, this is to be expected.
Keean, the way I see it going one of two ways. One, we just completely pretend it didn't happen now. Or two, the way of the Wuhan lab is gone where, oh, now it's okay to talk about on late night talk shows. We just discovered this. This is news to everybody else. And the mainstream media is doing a great job in uncovering all this. How do you think this plays out in the media hands from here on out?
Well, this won't be like the Wuhan lab. It's different because the left needs this, right? Like this is the basis of the destruction of Trump. They will never let this go. They will continue to gaslight you, they will continue to lie, and they will continue to grab onto falsehoods to justify whatever they want to believe about January 6th, whatever they've been told to believe by the media, and that will not change. There might be new evidence, but that evidence isn't going to be pointing out what the FBI has done on that day. That evidence is going to be even more damning for Trump because they'll fabricate it. That's just that's the only interest they have in changing the narrative at this point, and it's making it even worse for Trump. The fact that there are unindicted co-conspirators, like that word is a very unique phrase, right? Unindicted co-conspirators. When people start to understand what that means, and the fact that there are unindicted co-conspirators in many plots and in many situations, they're going to be wondering why is the FBI there at that time? Why, how many mass shootings have the FBI successfully stopped? And the answer is none. But they have been involved in a lot of them, haven't they? They've been involved in a lot of mass shootings, actually. And now when we see that there's 20 unindicted co-conspirators who were on the front lines of the riots on January 6th, well, I'm this close to printing off a bunch of shirts that say 1-6 was an inside job because, this is a horrifying day, a horrifying news for people who have their head on square.
So they're naming here in the article, and I thought they were saying 1/6 of something in the title. But
no,
now
they want to brand this like 9/11, right? 1/6 is a thing. 1/6 was the day Donald Trump tried to destroy democracy, is what they'll tell you. But really, 1/6 was the day that the FBI, they had hotel rooms with these guys, right? They were there. They weren't just getting caught up in the moment. This was a long plan. You don't just get a hotel room with some random dude and then storm the Capitol the next day. This was something that was planned for a very long time. And if the FBI knew about it before this happened, well, you Americans and really everyone needs to ask themselves, whose side are they on?
Okay, I want to read from this article a little bit, then we'll ask Eric what he thinks about it. So they're naming the Oath Keepers, who appear to have been named of having many feds. Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio, and known informant. 3%ers, I don't know much about them. I know they're always named as like amongst these groups, and they're asking all these questions in here. And we're naming up to 20 co-conspirators, I guess, across all three. I'm trying to see if we can just find that number in here somewhere. But up to 20 co-conspirators? No, we're just talking about 2020. Eric, what does this mean? I mean, we don't want to excuse the people who joined in, right? I mean, there's like, my estimate just for my eyes was like 20,000 people probably. Eric's gone. But At what point do we put the responsibility on like people who are waving people in? But there's a whole crowd of people storming the entire side of the building. They're wrecking stuff. The only time I thought I saw people who clearly looked like agitators were the people breaking the windows and knocking down doors, because people don't usually do that. So how much like personally, if I still blame the person who's doing the act, even if somebody's just waving you in. Come on, and there's lots of angles of agents doing that. Can we blame the other people at all, Keean?
The other people. Do you mean the people
Like
that
the
were
mass
in the
crowd
building?
of people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, people don't have a right to go into private property, and this could be considered that. I know it's publicly owned and it's a government facility, but there's rules for a reason. These people thought that their election was being stolen or had been stolen, and they used that to justify, with poking and prodding from the FBI, to commit what was a crime. It was a crime to do what these people did. But the fact that the FBI was appearing to, at least, say, you guys should really go into the Capitol. Hey, here's some help, or here's some advice, or here's a good way to do it. Let's get a hotel room in DC and make sure we're all at the right place at the right time tomorrow. Hey guys, everyone is guilty. If I think everyone is guilty, including any FBI agents who thought it was a good idea to do this.
Eric, what do you make of how Putin is now using that against the U.S.? If you didn't hear his statements, he's saying stuff like, oh, well, somebody asked him, why do you attack your own people? And he said the U.S. just did that. He said, like, he's putting it against Biden that they shot one of their own people. Clever strategy. Does Putin have a guy who's just up to date on all of America's internal issues?
It's totally a power move, right? I mean, he's basically saying some things that the spineless right wing really should be saying, but instead it's coming from Putin. So it's definitely a power move. I mean, we were completely embarrassed over the last couple of days during this G7 thing, right? And that was just a little part of it. And I mean, we're definitely, just to go back to the FBI a little bit, right? I mean, we saw for years, since Donald Trump came down the escalators, they've been trying to stop him. So you can't put anything beyond these people. I mean, from Russia to, remember, I mean, it was Russia for 3 years. They dropped it they dropped it like a hot potato, pivoted immediately and said Ukraine. Now, look, I don't know if I can completely one-to-one connect the FBI to all that stuff, but I mean, is it really that far-fetched? And as far as Putin, it is literally just a power move. So he can rile up, he can literally get like right-wing Americans on his side. If you don't know anything about Putin and you just turn on the TV and hear him saying what, some of these Republican senators or Congress people should have been saying months ago, then you might actually like Putin, which again plays further into the left-wing narrative that, oh, the right wing works for Russia and they're buddy-buddy with Russia. So it just never ends, man. We are not in a good place right now.
I get that it was a power move. I get that. But also, where's the lie? Right? Like, the Americans, like, what happened there that Russia wouldn't have done? Right? I'm not saying Russia's a good guy, but that day was a scar for everyone, not just the people who went into the Capitol, but the American government as well.
There's a lot of things where the media just flat out lies. And when the whole hype up of Vladimir Putin, sometimes I think that if there wasn't such a good track record of him being involved with like the KGB and killing people, I think it'd be pretty. I wouldn't get mad at people for saying maybe a whole bunch of the stuff about him being evil is made up, but it is what it is. I guess there is a track record of him being involved with the mob and the KGB and killing. I mean, they made it so that he can never be taken out of his presidency. So I guess that's saying something. China does the same thing. We might end up being in the same case here if nobody stands up. Keean, I know you got another place to be. Do you want to carry on, or do you have to go?
No, I was just about to tell you I got to go catch a flight. So I'll talk to you guys soon.
Catch a flight is code for, I think, eat a sandwich. I'm not sure. Eat a sandwich. What show is that on? I think How I Met Your Mother means smoking herbs and spices. The countersignal.com is where you can find, I know I just like ruin everybody. I ruin all my friends' images. Countersignal.com is where you can sign up for Keean's, I almost called you Ethan, Keean's mailing list, and the Counter Signal on Spotify. I wanted to show it on my Spotify, but then it shows all my playlists, and I can't be doing that. I can't have people knowing that I'm non-binary on Spotify. Andre, non-binary, and a picture of Trump and Kanye hugging. If you can find me on Spotify, go ahead and listen to my playlists. Thanks a lot for
Andrew,
joining
keep
us,
up your good
Keean.
work.
All right,
Later.
thanks a lot, Keean.
Take care, man.
All right. The next thing we're getting to, Eric, is the George Floyd statue. I know that you're a big proponent of this statue. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it? I have heard not much about it besides the fact that it's been erected. New York pays tribute to George Floyd with 700-pound bronze statue. That's a pound for every, I don't know, $100 million they raised. City of Newark, New Jersey paid tribute to George Floyd on Wednesday, unveiling a 700-pound bronze statue in his honor outside City Hall. Mayor Ross Baraka, who sounds like a Mortal Kombat character, along with other dignitaries, were on hand for the ceremony where the artwork was presented. Hopefully it inspires those who walk by to be more active and take part in activism, Eric. Is that exactly what it inspires you to do?
Oh, this is a tough one because this is like the long con, okay? So when a little kid, when a first grader, second grader, elementary school kid walks by this giant statue of George Floyd, people are gonna play him like quite literally like a saint, which we all know wasn't really the truth. Which, of course, unfortunately for me, calls in everything into question that I've basically ever learned. It's like to see what these people are doing, immediately rewriting history, and of course it coincides with Juneteenth. Of course it coincides with them flying these BLM flags at our embassies. Mayor Lori Lightfoot saying that she won't, talk to white people or whatever. It's just so obviously a political tool, right? I mean, think about Juneteenth for a minute. In 8 years of Obama, nobody called for making this a national holiday, this, that, and the other. But all of these people, these elected Democrats, these installed Democrats, have been driven completely mad, right? So they don't know left from right anymore. All they know is that orange man bad. So no matter what happens, they have to do these crazy, crazy radical things. I mean, what did George Floyd have to do with Newark, New Jersey? Right? It doesn't even make sense. But they know that now they can play this game to where this man will. I mean, we joke, right? Saint Fentanyl, Fentanyl Floyd, all this stuff. But like when things like this happen, they are now actually some little kid is going to think that George Floyd was just, dancing on the street corner.
In this?
I think he's wearing like a tank top or something maybe, and he's just sitting on that bench. But they're going to think he was just, dancing on the side of the road, and the police just, oh, is he shirtless? I don't know. I think it is.
He's just jacked.
I think it might be a tank top, but just my point is, some kids are going to walk by that, and they're going to think that this guy couldn't hurt a fly, never did anything wrong. They just randomly shot him because in 2020, the cops were more racist than ever in history before. So this is just them getting out in front of rewriting history, right? We already know about the 1619 Project and all that sort of critical race theory stuff. So it falls right in place. Just like the FBI stuff falls right in place with their coup. I don't know. Can I say that on YouTube? I don't know.
Probably not. Here's what I don't get. Like you're saying, a kid walks by and he's going to get, unless he goes and researches, he's going to get completely the wrong impression. I mean, if you're going to do it for George Floyd, why not do it for a guy who died from a heart attack selling cigarettes, hands up, don't shoot guy, which wasn't real.
Well, this one was an election year, right? This was the one that got rid of Trump. So this is quite literally monumental for the left. Like this is a big part of their operation.
Guy trying to grab his knife and cop shooting him. Like there's so many people that are interchangeable for this thing just because he suffered the worst, which of course we don't want to happen to anybody. But like, where's our Martin Luther King statue? Where's like You could pick so many other people who have done so many things. Where's your Tim Scott statue? Where's your Clarence Thomas statue? I mean, there's people out there, and the left wants to pretend as if there aren't these people. There aren't these people who are prominent African Americans to look up to or to teach things. I don't even care if you chose Michael Jordan or some sort of other millionaire athlete that isn't LeBron James. As long as they're a good role model, this is better than somebody who unfortunately suffered from police brutality and died, but we're still, and I'm sure somewhere somebody's going to say that this is a terrible thing to say, but he was committed a lot of crimes, heinous ones. If people who are watching don't know, he robbed a pregnant woman at gunpoint. He was a serial small shoplifter. He was selling or floating counterfeit bills, all this stuff, and we're literally changing history, like you said. Now they're talking about this Juneteenth bill. I don't even know what day is that. What day of the year is that?
I think it's on the 19th of June.
Candace Owens. Oh, that makes sense. All right. Candace Owens says she's already not going to celebrate it, and I saw my guy Bryson Gray said he's not going to celebrate it either. I'm sure. Why did this happen under the black president? I'm sure. It's this whole facade that we keep moving towards, and I don't know at which point we're going to get out of it. President Joe Biden on Thursday signed a bill establishing Juneteenth, the date commemorating the end of slavery in the United States. Now, Eric, correct me if I'm wrong here. When people were freaking out about the Black Panther movie and it having the fake scores on Rotten Tomatoes or whatever it has, just like Amy Schumer, for example, my thinking is if this movie is important for black children to see something and be like, I can be a superhero, blah, 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 all the good stuff, then that's completely fine with me. If this is something where it's important to black people to celebrate this day, then that's completely fine with me. But just the timing of Joe Biden doing it and how many racist things Joe Biden has said and how many racists he's been involved with in his lifetime, Dixiecrats, segregationists, look that up or watch one of my other videos to find that out. Should I not be suspicious?
No, this has nothing to do with black people, obviously. This is pure political theater, as it's par for the course, right? This is all they have. This is all they have, right? So even Rona now is not really working for them anymore as far as, Fauci's emails and stuff like that. So the only other things that they have to talk about are awful problems that they created, whether it's inflation, whether it's the border crisis, whether it's crime across big cities, in big cities across the country, I should say. Those are the only other things that are happening. So what's left? We just have to create another race wedge, right? I mean, look, BLM, I quite literally witnessed it. I remember in late May of 2020 in New York, or mid-May, I should say, when pretty much things weren't normal because we were still in the virus, right? But you didn't have boarded up buildings everywhere. And I would venture to say that even to this day, more than a year later, a lot of businesses are still boarded up in New York. Now, I don't know. I can't say for sure. I haven't been back, but it wouldn't surprise me. So unfortunately, A, they're getting out ahead of rewriting history, and B, they're showing that violence and thuggery work. And it's sad, right? I mean, especially in a state like New Jersey, which just got off lockdown. They're erecting statues. They just got off lockdown and sending the message that if you burn down cities, we'll build a statue of your guy.
Yeah, it's a great time to be spending taxpayer monies on something that happened like 5 states over. I mean, it's a lot of it is virtue signaling in the end. A lot of people are saying that. I hate to bring up Candace Owens a second time. Shout out Candy, as I call her. Never spoken to her in my life, but I'll call her that. She's saying that people are waking up to all this stuff and they're just not going to believe it anymore. I don't know how true that is. People are seeing how shitty Biden has been overseas in these interviews. He gets so mad if anyone asks him a question. Same thing happened to Trudeau. So mad if anybody asks him a real question because they're used to everyone kissing their ass. And you always ask, are people finally going to wake up after this? This particular topic, I don't think it's going to matter. I think people are going to walk by and be like, oh, yes, praise him just like they do rainbow sidewalks and flags. Praise them. This hurts no one. It's only for inclusion. So I don't know where we are. Maybe the country needs a referendum on its system, or maybe the states need to separate again. I don't know.
And just
Mhm.
really, really briefly, this also comes after, I think it was probably even a little bit more than a year, for the past 3 or 4 years, like since the Trump era, that they've literally been vandalizing and pulling down statues of other American heroes. I was on, on that little viral clip with me and Vicky outside of the Natural History Museum, because they wanted to pull down a Teddy Roosevelt statue. So they're yanking all those down and replacing them with, I mean, thugs. I get it, dude. The guy died. Like, R.I.P. It's sad, but like a statue, bro. You like Kobe, whatever. I think it's ironic that we watched them tear down statues for the last 4 years, and now they put one up of a guy who was quite literally a drug addict.
Transition, Bitcoin, Mega Bull, MicroStrategy, and you're gonna have to explain this to me. Off the top of the hour, I was saying, Tristan Alexander from CryptoLab.ca had him on. He's speaking all the stuff that's going over my head because I'm not as smart as I hoped I was. So you're gonna have to explain it to me just in the same way. Bitcoin, Mega Bull, MicroStrategy CEO. So Mega Bull, MicroStrategy CEO gives hope to Ethereum altcoins. How is he giving us hope, Eric? Please, God, give me hope for Ethereum. That's the only thing I have a lot of.
Yeah, I did catch a little bit when I was dealing with the technical issues at the beginning, that I guess Keean had bought in at the top of something. I don't know if he was talking about Bitcoin. Of course, that's what you want to do, and that's what they call like FOMO, right? When you start to feel like it's about to go to the moon, so you buy, but then you realize that that's the top. But as far as I understand it, this is just a really short article that's basically saying that this guy, Michael Saylor, who is just, I mean, obviously he's a billionaire from Bitcoin, right? Like infancy adopter, bought however many millions of coins when they were less than a penny in 2011 or whatever it is. But he owns
So
this
he's got
company.
92,000 Bitcoins were acquired
92,000.
at aggregated purchase price of $2.25 billion. Of approximately 24,450. So he got Bitcoin when it was about 25,000, and what is it at now? It is at 37,000.
37,000. So I feel like
That's still huge profit.
Absolutely, but I feel like him in his personal capacity, he has been, a Bitcoin advocate in his personal, not as far as the business, his CEO title. But I could be wrong about that, because I watch him on YouTube sometimes, and he's, as the article states, he's a mega bull, right? Like he thinks that this thing is going to be worth.
I've never heard that term before.
Yeah. Well, and Tristan said when we were talking to him that he thought it was going to get to $1 million, which, I mean, sounds crazy. But even after
I think, to be fair, he said 200 to 500,000. He thinks, but he's not going to be surprised if it hits 1 million,
which is absolutely insane. Because at that rate, even my small purchase of Bitcoin would be very profitable. So we can all hope. But I guess what the article is saying is that he is doubling down. So he's taking money from his company to buy another. I mean, you could pull it back up, but I think another at least $1 billion worth of Bitcoin, because he believes that cash is going to be, obviously it's not going to be worthless, but I think he says in the article that cash is trash and it is a liability on their balance sheet. So he's selling $1 billion worth of his own company stock to put back into Bitcoin, which I think, of course, gives hope to Bitcoin holders. But as we know, that Bitcoin pretty much leads the way, right? I mean, obviously there can be some anomalies, but for the most part, as Bitcoin goes, so do the rest of the altcoins. And I'm with you in thinking that I really need Ethereum to do good, because that would make my life a lot easier.
Well, with inflation going the way it is right now, I wouldn't be surprised if people start, pulling out of certain things. If the economy crashes for something like housing again, or what have you, I shouldn't have put a Tic Tac in my mouth. I'm so excited about them though. They're Coca-Cola flavored Tic Tacs.
Oh God! Be less
What,
white.
Eric? You got a problem with that? Be less
Well-
white? Hold on. Hold the brakes here. Coca-Cola Tic Tacs is a white thing, you're saying?
No, remember, you don't remember the Be Less White? I'm more of an Altoid guy. I gotta go with the Altoids here, but
Oh, so now he's got a shaky mint thing, and I'm the bad guy. Be less. I gotta hide my face when it says "Be less black," Eric Butler, with your Altoids. What are you gonna have next? I don't know what food. I don't know.
I don't know.
Besides the stereotypically racist ones, I don't have any other ideas.
Like fried
A
chicken
big
and
gulp.
watermelon, or is that what you're talking about?
Your words, man. You're sick bigot.
I don't know how we got here from Bitcoin, anyways.
It happening. I was just talking to somebody the other day about Elon's manipulation of the market now, and we actually just sat there and looked up how he's saying it's bad for the environment. And I thought there'd be a better argument for this when he's saying it's harmful for climate change. The argument is literally these computers that people run to mine Bitcoin take up a lot of electricity in China, and this is your argument. This is your pretend argument for why you shouldn't be investing in Bitcoin. But then, like a week later, he's just like, "Here's my what's the weird sex-related Bitcoin or cryptocurrency he was promoting?"
No, I mean, I just know he was
You
pumping
didn't hear about that?
Dogecoin. I know he was big
Oh
on
no,
Dogecoin. Did he drop Dogecoin and went to something else? I don't know.
he
Oh,
mentioned something else. Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna type that into Google or DuckDuckGo.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't, but
Oh my God! So here's what it runs under. It's so here it is, and then I don't know where it said it. Where its short form is right here. I don't even want to say it because I don't want people to clip me saying this. Maybe in another time in my life. But what is it valued at right now? It is about 7 cents. So it's gone from nothing. It rocketed up to 17 cents, it looks like. Hold on, I'm trying to get that there. 27 cents. And then people sold it. Steady went down. Then he probably mentioned it again. Went back up to 28 cents. And then, so is this just a game now, Eric? For let's see how quickly. And I'd love to shout out my guy Steve Will Do It, who's a crazy young YouTuber, where he uses this website called Roobet, and hopefully they'll pay me for mentioning them. But literally all it is a website where it gives you like this little graph, and let's say you bet $1,000, and it's like gives you a little graph of 2 times, so you've won $2,000, and if you leave it, it keeps going, you've won $3,000, but at any moment it can just crash, and then you're out of all the money you put in. But if you keep playing like a random game, you could get up to $20,000. And that seems to be like what this is doing. Let's just see how high it can go before everybody starts selling. And this could be a millionaire's way of just making a quick 50 grand, 100 grand. But it could be a person who doesn't have any money's way of losing $1,000 that they're thinking, oh, Elon's gonna save me this time. I think what my problem is, Eric, is people have so much faith in Elon Musk as being this guy who doesn't play the market and he's just honest and he's just doing the right thing.
well, I think Elon's stranglehold is declining. I don't think people are going to listen to him for too much longer, and the markets won't react as harshly or as wildly as they have to his stupid tweets before. Hopefully, I could be wrong, but I think everybody. I'm not going to sit here and say Elon Musk is evil or anything. I mean, he does have these like brain neuro chip things, and his wife is a communist, so maybe he is evil. But I think, to your point, it is a quick and easy way for him and his buddies to, for whatever reason, collect a little bit more money, right? If he says, oh, it's bad for the environment, it drops 60%, then he can load up on more knowing it's going to go back up eventually. That is true, but I think it's also just kind of like, it's kind of just like a frat boy thing. Is like, it's kind of like stupid, it's kind of naive. I mean, the guy's a billionaire. He did this Tesla thing, and of course some people will say that he's just a figurehead of Tesla and he's not really the brains behind the operation. I don't know, can't testify to that. But I'm not gonna pin like super malicious vibes on Elon. Not like not like I would to a Democratic politician, at least not yet. And I think with that being said, I think his control over that crypto market is coming to an end. Now, of course, some people will listen to it, but I think the people who really know what's going on, like your guy Tristan, right? He's not worried about the tweets that Elon's putting out, and the people that really understand that game, who bought in, in 2019. I mean, think about it. Bitcoin was, I don't know, you could probably pull up a graph, but it was probably at what, $10,000, $12,000 in 2019, and then it skyrocketed all the way up to 60 this year. And then when it goes back to 30, people call it a crash because Elon's talking. Like, yeah, they're correlated.
Oh, we just lost Eric. He must be going through an earthquake or something. I'll shake the camera. I'll start shaking, and then people are going to clip that and think I'm having an autistic breakdown. The next thing we're going to talk about. Well, to wrap that up, Elon Musk, he's doing good things. He's sending rockets to Mars. He's sending rockets to everything else. Maybe to the moon, which we for some reason haven't gone back to in a long time. But again, I don't like this idea, and it's not. I don't even blame him. He's free to be whatever character he wants. But people are so desperate to covet somebody as being pure of heart and just doing the right thing. It's never going to happen that way. It's never going to be believable. Prince Harry's never going to not say things so that you don't want to watch his show with Meghan Markle. She's never going to say things so that you don't think she's a victim. Elon Musk isn't going to say things and do things so that you think he's a bad guy. He's going to do the opposite. He's going to go ahead and go in front of oil executives and say they're a dying industry, whether that's true or not. He's going to go ahead and say that you should trust me for all my Bitcoin stuff, whether that's true or not. So my problem is with this character that people fall in love with, and then they defend Elon Musk to the death and act like him or anybody else is infallible. It's the same way people get hypnotized by Kamala Harris, for example. She's the first this and that, and we can entrust everything in her, and we can believe in her without fault. But, it's just not true. People do have ulterior motives, Eric. I was going to tell people that you got stabbed or something.
Dude, this has been a technical nightmare. I don't know if it's the Russians are hacking us today. It's really never been this bad, so I don't know. We'll have to look into that. I'll look into it. It's clearly on my end today.
Yeah, I was just saying how I don't, I don't really understand people just buying into celebrity status anymore. Not after all we've gone through the last 5 years. This is a bit predictable. I saw it in Texas. I saw a video of somebody fighting somebody with a bat over wearing a mask in a hardware store the other day. Bay Area restaurant and grocery workers, how they feel about customers no longer wearing masks. And San Francisco Gate, I'm going to guess, Eric, they're gonna be angry about it. Do we have some quotes here that you want? We're really just anxious about being around people who say they're vaccinated, but we don't don't know for sure. So immediately what I'm thinking is somebody said, hey, magazine owner / editor, San Francisco Gate, here's $100,000 from big pharma company or a Democrat feeder corporation that says, write an article that tells people that it'd be great to have vaccination passports. So this employee is saying, not all of our family members are able to get vaccinated, and so we feel we're still at risk. While customers are no longer required to mask up at the likes of Whole Foods and Trader Joe's, all workers, vaccinated or not, must remain masked and physically distanced. So to me, it sounds like people are just mad that they don't want to or they have to wear masks and the rest of them do. To that, I say, in Trader Joe's and all these other places, you're probably part of a workers union. You're probably part of something where guys can all come together and tell your employers that you don't want to wear a mask anymore. And what are they going to do? Fire it? It's the real, actual reason for unions to exist. Set aside all the corruption and everything that I feel about unions. But the reason unions exist, especially in grocery stores and department stores, is so that you don't have to put up with stuff that all of you hate, such as wearing masks. You won't have to put up with having to show a vaccine passport if you all come together. They can't fire 100 people in one day and bring everybody else in the next day. That's not how it works, Eric. They just go out and find these people that are pissed off about having to wear a mask while other people don't. And because they have to do it, they want you to do it. It comes from the whole thing about wanting to tell people what to do, I think. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, it's very strange. And what
Oh, we keep losing Eric. We should just cut him off. Thank you guys for sticking around while the technical difficulty happens around here. We'll read more of them, the quotes from these people. That would make me very impatient, says Ricky Olmos, an employee at the, I don't know what SOMA means, location of Whole Foods, Southern something. Because we as grocery workers were among the first people who got offered a vaccine. If I saw an unvaccinated customer coming in without a mask, and I still have to wear a mask, I'd be a little peeved about that. That's the person with an A on the group project that didn't do any work for it. So they literally are just jealous that other people don't have to do it. I was that guy. I didn't study for stuff, and I'm getting an 80%, let's say. I'm not keen enough to get 90s, Eric. But they're mad that somebody else doesn't have to do it, so force people. That's like saying I'm poor, you have to be poor too.
Yeah, well, they're commies. It's California. That's exactly, and they want to make sure that people are divided, right? I mean, and they say things like, like, oh, this is how they feel about it. It's like, no, remember when we were talking about science? It was all about science. Now it's just talking about.
We can't do that anymore.
Yeah, now it's just all about feelings and how you feel about the mask, and of course they play it like this article. I mean, it's the SF Gate, right? It's far left nonsense, but they play it like like, how are we really ready for this? It's too soon. It's been a year and a half, guys. Like, if you want this to be the rest of your life, just say it, right? Just stop pretending, right? Just, you don't have to be like, oh, it's too soon, we're not ready. Just say, you know what? This has worked on me. I am completely scared out of my mind, and I'm gonna wear a mask for the rest of my life. I mean, you had the clip of that girl who I think you mentioned, like, she seemed like a nice enough girl, right? You don't want to like make fun of people like that, but it's like
double mask and goggles girl.
Yeah, and she just randomly picked. I think she said, yeah, I'm gonna do it for like another 2 years. Like, she just picked that out of thin air. Like, what are you talking about? Like, none of this makes sense. She
sounded so afraid.
Yeah.
The worst of all. Yeah, go ahead.
No. But it's just like, in this situation in San Francisco, right? I mean, think about it. We can read the stories of how overdoses had dwarfed virus deaths in San Francisco, but they're still so angry about a mask.
The worst one, I don't want to say worst person, but one of the craziest things in that video was we're going to have to get Eric, when in the old TV shows, they did the bunny ears on top of the TV set. One of the worst parts of that video was a doctor who said that she didn't like the fact that other doctors were speaking out against, lockdowns, vaccines, what have you. A doctor who didn't like other doctors speaking out because they disagree with her. And then a lot of the people that I spoke to that day said, I don't have a problem with it if people stop wearing masks after the mandate is lifted. I think people should be able to do whatever they want. And then I would say, okay, so right now you think that people should be able to not wear a mask if they choose not to right now. And they're just like, oh no, I think you should just do it because the government says so. So it's this weird double thinking where if my answer is safe and I think everybody else agrees with me, then I can have that answer. But you just said something that goes against the government, and therefore I agree with the government. It's like people have been trained to speak like they live in China, like the government's going to attack them, without ever actually having to implement the laws. Like, a lot of the stuff that's been implemented is just by, social pressure. We suggest you get this. We suggest you do that. You can't force you. You have to we can't force you into a quarantine hotel. You just have to go, or else we'll give you this ticket that we won't enforce. So much of this is social coercion without making any of these laws. But if China was to imagine how easy this was, or see in the future to see how easy this was 50 years ago, whenever they brought this in, I think it was 50, 60, 70 years ago, whatever, where they're running around with the little Mao books. If they could look in the future and realize how easy this is, they would probably just waited. They'd probably just wait till like 1995 and be like, let's just grow our economy, let people be free for a while. And then we'll just start feeding them propaganda where it says, you're a bad person if you don't do this. And it's the same thing they do now with their social credit score. You're a bad person, but the threat of violence from the police state is there. There's no threat of violence from the police state here. There's threat of stupidity in the forms of closing down your restaurant, locking your doors, stuff like that. but the police aren't literally going to come and beat you at your house. I mean, they might throw you around at a protest now and again, but they're not actually coming and locking you in your house like in China or beating you in the streets and saying nothing happened, Eric.
Yeah, I mean, the propaganda obviously has worked on a lot of people, right? And I saw it firsthand when you look back at the testing facility. Remember before we were talking about shots, it was all about testing. Like, I don't know, people seem to not even remember that anymore. But it was all about testing. Go get a test. And then no matter what the test said, you were just supposed to stay home anyways, right? It's like, just like, oh, well, at the beginning when you got the shot, well, you were still supposed to wear a mask anyways. But the point I'm making is that the propaganda worked so well. and I'm not sure if it's, obviously, you do the streeters and talk to some of these crazy people, and you could go, I'm sure, to California and New York, and you'll still find a lot of people who are buying this. But I don't think there's really many other places. Now, I could be in my own little, common sense bubble of mildly conservative people, but I don't think anywhere between California and New York, okay, Oregon, right? All the way on the West Coast and all the way up in New York, everybody in between, I think, can see clear through this. But unfortunately for us, the media resides mostly in California and New York. So they're the ones pumping out all this nonsense that makes normal people like me and you think that we're in the minority. Now, your video, your little reel there was actually really quite scary, because that seemed like a young enough girl. Like, it's already worked. So they don't have to do anything anymore. It's like, next time, you hear these little sound bites of how, oh, well, for the next pandemic and the next this, and it's like, what are you talking about, guys? Like,
it's never going away.
Yeah, but of course it's never going to go away, and it could go away, and it could also come back because they created it, right? Like,
that was in a very affluent neighborhood. In fact, when we went to park there, just the random public parking lot outside the grocery store is pay parking. It's a lot of people in Toronto living above their means. They probably have 2 or 3 people living in a $2,000 a month apartment that's like maybe 2 bedrooms. They're young professionals who really want to feel cool living there. This is what most of Toronto is, other than rich people who own these condos. But these are $2,500, $2,000 condos a month that nobody can afford. 3 people are living in them at once. They have a terrible, like, inside their actual living quarters is terrible. But the mentality is that I'm living in downtown Toronto. I'm part of the cool people. I live in this area that's very, like, we've got rainbows everywhere. We've got a little market. It's close to the water. We've got our patios and everything. And it's fine to have all that stuff, even though you're living way above your means. But there's not a single soul around there that's going to say, go outside the grain and say something that other people are going to disagree with. They just don't want to cause the trouble because their whole life has been working towards and currently is being cool and trying to be what everybody else thinks is cool.
So it sounds
Eric,
exactly like New York. Just
is that what is? Yeah,
like
New York,
yeah.
probably just 50 years along. Yeah. So, last thing we can say here, watch my show. I interviewed my buddy and coworker Mocha Pazurgan, who literally is a celebrity in Turkey, came to Canada because he didn't like it there. So I basically asked him if it's worse here now than it is in Turkey. We talked about a whole bunch of other stuff, including him being assaulted by police and all other good stuff like that. Montreal, boat, curfew reporting where the police shine lights in your eyes, call you Jew media, stuff like that. Fun fact, he's not Jewish. And if you want to buy Eric's book, it's still for sale on the Amazon machine, New York City 2020 Gotham Unglued hardcover. Go buy it now. Eric's holding it up. We're going to do his usual hold it up at the end of the show. Thank you to cryptolab.ca. I know if his predictions for what he told me to buy crypto-wise come true even a little bit, then I'll have him back on and I'll kiss his ass. Eric, any last words for you?
No, that's it. Go buy the book, and we're gonna get these technical issues squared away for next week.
We're gonna get you on like a original Mac from like 1991.
Dude,
We're gonna refurbish it.
I don't know what happened. I don't know, dude. I can't complain. I can't call it. But yeah, we'll be back to normal next week, and I guess we might have a cool guest as well.
We have another cool guest. Maybe we should start announcing guests ahead. I don't know. I just fear that they're going to drop out because it's happened before. But it's a big name guest next week, I can promise you. And if he drops out, then I'm glad I didn't say his name. It's a he. I'll give you that. Or is it?
Them.
Pregnant persons.